All right, folks, it's 9 o'clock. Let's just check some microphones, make sure we're all set to go here. Commissioner Kolars, can you hear us this morning?
Yes, good morning. Thank you.
Good morning. Good to have you with us. Commissioner Drano?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Commissioner Kemp?
Greetings and felicitations.
Well, and same to you. Commissioner Lipke, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. All right. We'll call to order the June 8th, 2021 meeting of the Nicollet County Board of Commissioners. We'll start with the flag pledge. Maybe Ms. McCormick, you can lead us this morning. I pledge allegiance to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You see, that's just my way to see that, make sure everyone's mics are working. Thank you very much. Good to see you this morning. I'm just going to remind folks to silence your cell phones, and for folks who are, especially folks who are listening in, if you would mute your microphones. And today, due to the COVID-19 pandemic and resulting state and federal emergency declarations and guidance about limiting unnecessary person-to-person contact, the June 8th, 2021 Nicollet County Board meeting and Drainage Authority meeting will be conducted under Minnesota Statute 13D.021, meetings by telephone or other electronic means. County Board and Drainage Authority members are able to participate by telephone or other electronic means as posted. First, we'll invite a motion to approve the agenda. Let me first, though, ask Administrator Landcamer, any changes to the agenda?
No, Mr. Chair, there are no changes.
Seeing no changes, invite a motion. Kemp moves, Lipke seconds to approve the agenda as presented. Ms. Lewis, if you would take the roll, please.
Kemp?
Yes.
Lipke?
Yes.
Drunell?
Yes.
Kolars?
Yes.
Morrow?
Yes, the agenda is adopted. We'll turn next to the consent agenda. 4 items on the consent agenda. Does any commissioner wish to remove any item?
Mr. Chair, I just might have a question on the fraud investigator, if we could.
Let's go ahead. We'll go ahead first with that question. Go ahead, Commissioner Kolars.
And thank you, sir. And maybe Cassie could fill in, or Michelle too. Is there a success rate with this position? And if so, could you talk about it in any means or way that would be helpful today?
In terms of success rate, I could certainly ask Jay to put together a report. I would say, as for a current update, we continue to work very collaboratively between our departments, and we do believe that there is a lot of success and benefit to having this position. This year in particular, we know that our numbers are going to look quite a bit different because the reporting has been suspended for many of our income maintenance programs and our ability to close people from programs. Our fraud numbers are going to look quite a bit different. We are working on putting together a report right now for a report to the board on all health and human services related items for next week's meeting. So I can certainly make sure that I have additional information included.
And Cassie, and thank you, Mr. Chair. I was searching for the word. I don't know if success was the right word. I just wanted to hear what kind of results have been coming from this position. Thank you.
Other commissioners, if there are no questions, invite a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I so move.
Lipke moves. Second. Kemp seconds. Ms. Lewis, if you would read the rule, please.
Lipke?
No, there's no discussion of consent. Lipke.
Yes.
Kemp?
Yes.
Kolars?
Yes.
Drunell?
Yes.
Morrow?
Yes, the consent agenda is approved. We'll turn to public appearances. If there's anybody on this call who is seeking to make a public appearance, if you please unmute. we see a box, it's entitled Fritz, who's unmuted. Is that
It's probably the reporter, I know.
if Fritz has nothing to say, muted again? And Abby, is there anyone potentially in the room?
There's not.
It doesn't look like we have anyone here to make public comments, so we'll turn to Public Works. County Engineer Greenwood, I believe this is you on geotechnical hydraulic engineering.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board and staff. My item is consider geotechnical hydraulic engineering proposal for County Road 23 ravine erosion. And if you recall, at the last board meeting in May, I had alluded to an issue we found on County Road 23 with a centerline culvert that was having significant erosion on the outlet end of that pipe, and that I would be coming back to the board more than likely with an engineering proposal to start investigating a repair of this erosion issue. So I think it's probably best if we go through the pictures. That'll help kind of explain things. And Abby, if you could go to page 38 of the agenda, there's a map there that kind of shows where this centerline culvert crossing occurs. It's probably about a mile north of where County Road 23 crosses the Minnesota River, or about 3.5 miles south of Trunk Highway 14 by the city of Nicollet. So if we go back up to the pictures, I think on page 36. Yep, this is looking to the west, and you can see the pipe outlet in kind of the bottom right corner. What I tell everybody is these pictures don't do the problem justice until it's really something to actually go out there and look at this in person. It's amazing how much material has washed out of this ravine, and the erosion continues down the ravine probably for another 1/2 mile or so. So it's quite amazing. Go to page 37. So this is a little clear shot of the pipe outlet. When County Road 23 was reconstructed, I think in the mid-1960s, this culvert outlet was set at natural ravine ground elevation. And so from that point till now, there's probably upwards of 25 feet of material that has eroded away underneath the outlet of that pipe. Go down to page 39. We took some drone footage to kind of give an aerial idea of what this erosion is looking like. One thing to note is once you get past maybe a foot or two of topsoil on the banks, it's this real fine sugar sand underneath that material. So once that's exposed, water is eroding this very easily. Go down to page 40. This is a little further out aerial shot, and this gives you a little bit idea of the erosion area in relation to the actual road bed. That culvert that crosses County Road 23 is a 60-inch culvert, so it's fairly big, and it's about 320 feet long, and it's about 40 to 45 feet deep underneath the road. The other thing that we couldn't really show in any of these pictures is there's additional erosion. If you look at where the culvert outlet is in this picture, and you picture another little ravine that heads off kind of to the left of the photo, heading up towards the road, where the ditch further to the north kind of dumps out and runs down another ravine that meets up where this culvert outlet is. There's significant erosion that's also happening in that ravine, and that ravine gets very close to the road. We've actually seen a small slide that's probably a foot or 2 feet away from the guardrail on County Road 3. So this issue is definitely progressing. this culvert it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. It's heavily forested on both sides, and when there's any kind of leaves and vegetation out there, you cannot see, you wouldn't even know that this culvert exists out here. And so this spring, some of my maintenance staff was driving down the road and no leaves or vegetation on yet, and out of the corner of their eye, they could see the ravine banks, the major erosion going. So they stopped and got out and investigated and alerted us to this issue. We have done extensive survey work at the site. When staff came back with some of these initial pictures, from the pictures, it looked like this would be an issue that we could probably design in-house, but staff was asking me to come out and make an actual site visit to see if we needed to do any further survey work. And once seeing it actually in person, I knew right away that this is pretty extensive and that we would need outside help to try to investigate and develop repair options for this problem. And so I believe it was on May 24th, I met with Gale Tech engineering representatives along with SRF representatives. They are the same two engineering firms that have helped us with our geotechnical issues on the County Road 14 project. And we'll also be working on the County Road 21 project along the Minnesota River. They came out, they walked the site, and they have developed the proposal that is in your packet today. And so the proposal in your packet is for a phase 1 geotech and hydraulic engineering analysis and study report. And so they would perform soil borings, probably 2 soil borings, one around 70 feet and another one at 100 feet to get a good idea of the soil profile in this area. And then they would look at the hydraulics, how much water passes through this area. And then from that information, they would develop several remediation proposals on a couple different fixes that we would then, they would develop a couple fixes along with high-level cost estimates. And from that, we would select one of those options. And then we would enter into a phase 2 contract where they would do all the final design and specifications and put the project together. County Road 20, a couple other things to note. County Road 23 carries about 2,000 cars and trucks a day. It's a very heavily traveled road. MnDOT is planning on using it as one leg of the Trunk Highway 14 detour next year. As we were looking at the site, the topography is so challenging that more than likely to do the repair work would probably require the closure of County Road 23, because we're going to have to work from the top down to this site, topography to the west, and trying to come up the ravine and work from the bottom up looks nearly impossible. So we need to act on this quickly. This erosion is not going to stop on its own. It's going to continue to progress. And so embarking on this phase 1 study to figure out what we should be doing for repair is quite needed. So I guess at this point, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have on this item.
Well, Director Greenwood, before we move forward and have a motion on this, I believe Commissioner Kemp has a question about page 50 of the board packet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I do reserve the option for another question related to this. But on page 50 of the contract, there's a insert addendum A titled Nicollet County Remonumentation Contract. I'm guessing that that's a typo, but I would ask that we have that corrected before we authorize or accept it as corrected. Do you have a thought on that?
Yes, I will make that deletion and correction. When we had embarked on our first contract with Gale Tech for County Road 14, I had shared with them some items that we wanted added into their proposal, and one was insurance requirements. And so I shared with them the sample insurance requirements that we had required Bolton and Mink to add into their contract for the remonumentation work that they're doing throughout the county. It got corrected on past proposals, but when Nate put this proposal together, he must have just used that old document. But I will make sure that gets corrected.
And if I may continue, Mr. Chair.
Well, let me just be clear at first, Commissioner Kent. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the word remonumentation and replace with the correct phrase. Maybe it's going to be County Road 23.
Yeah, I'll come up with a phrase for that. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's just a technical change. Thank you. Commissioner Kent.
Seth, would you tell me again what the date of this original culvert install was? Did you say that was in the 60s?
I believe it was in the 1960s. I don't have that plan set right in front of me, but I would say 1965, 66.
Okay, and it's my understanding, you correct me if I'm wrong, but that tile crossing, or I should say that culvert, is of the same age then?
Yes, that culvert is of the same age. It was several years ago. Staff had actually walked through the pipe, and at that time it looked to be in very good shape. But if we're going to embark on very extensive construction work for this erosion issue, at the same time, we would end up installing a liner into that pipe. So
that was exactly my question. I was just, does it make sense since we have access, well, inconveniently because of the erosion, but once we have it pointed out, and it's my understanding that lining technology now can handle tile this size?
Yes, yep. No, that's what we're planning on. We're also looking at doing some more minor restoration work on the inlet side. There's a couple additional ravines that feed down into that inlet, and there's some erosion starting on that side, but it's not near as extensive as this. And so we're going to try to arrest that before it becomes a problem on that side also.
Perfect. And I'm also assuming then, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I guess one more question popped into my head. Are there any additional funding sources to help this remediation, or are we pretty much on our own on this one?
Unfortunately, in this situation, we're going to be on our own. So it's been great that we've been very successful on all of our other issues that we've had and gotten that outside money to come in. So that definitely helps with this one. But yeah, right. It's going to be out of our pocket on this one. Gotcha. And, just a real ballpark estimate, I would not be surprised if this repair is, somewhere between $1 million to $2 million to complete. This is going to be a tough one.
The Commissioner Corrs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Seth, are you telling us that if this is not repaired, that County Road 23 is in jeopardy of falling in?
Eventually, if you never deal with this issue, the erosion is going to continue to march towards the road. And as we lose additional support material out from underneath that culvert, the end of the culvert will not support itself. And so it's going to break off, and it's just going to continue to, progress back towards the road. We're quite a ways at this point away from the road, but we don't want it to get any worse, because then the repair only gets that much more expensive to deal with here.
Other commissioners? Commissioner Lukey.
Seth, we have no idea whether this was a 1 or 2 rain event, or this has just been a series of rain events over the last 50 years.
Oh, I'm thinking that this has probably occurred in the last several years. We've been hit with, the drainage. What's kind of funny about this, the drainage area that feeds into this is not very big. And so it's kind of amazing to see the erosion that we're having here. But For example, I believe last June, in this general area, we had anywhere from 6 to 10 inches of rain in probably a 3 to 4 hour time frame. And so those type of rains can do extensive damage in a very short time. And yeah, last couple of years, I would say this is progressed to this point.
Commissioner Drano?
Did we not do a reconstruct on County Road 23 in the last 10 years?
We performed a concrete overlay in about 2014, 15
Okay,
time frame. Yep.
sounds familiar. Thank you.
Yep.
Before we go to a motion, I'll just have a quick question of my own. I'm looking at a document here we're going to look at later today that says that the county has 280,000 acres with 24,000 acres of forest land. So Director Greenwood, I'm just raising, you noted that your team saw it, the leaves were down, it was clear to see. How does the county go about checking for things like this along our roads? Because it's a big area to cover and there's a lot of wooded acres.
Yep. Every year, maintenance staff, they take a segment too of a couple different roads, and they've been doing culvert inspections. This one has just been out of sync with probably, the timing of their inspections and when we've got these big, massive rain events. So, yep, every year culverts and bridges are getting looked at.
Great, thank you. I'll ask if any commissioners would like to make a motion to approve this phase 1 contract. Commissioner Lipke moves. Commissioner Kemp seconds. Any further discussion? Yes, I'm sorry, Director Greenwood.
I was just going to ask if at all possible, if the board is would like to entertain this, if the motion could include authorizing myself to sign the proposal, and if so, and if this is approved, I would sign this today and get it off to Gale Tech so they could get working on it.
So the motion will include authorizing you to sign and execute the agreement.
Yes.
Second it.
Any discussion?
Well, Seth, excuse me, please. First thing I was thinking after looking at the pictures that maybe you guys should be able to qualify to do this, but after your explanation, I kind of understand why you need some more expert help.
And he agrees with you.
Yeah, this is, I know when myself and staff are out of our league on issues, I would love to take all of you down there, but in the rule book for county engineers, it says thou shalt not lose or have a county commissioner die on a site visit. So I'd be scared. I would be scared to take you guys down here. It's amazing. The slope is, steeper than a 1-to-1. It's treacherous.
I appreciate your concern for the commissioners.
All right, I think we've had sufficient discussion at this point. Ms. Lewis, if you would take the roll, please.
Lipke,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
Drennel,
Yep.
Kolars,
Yes.
Morrow.
Yes, the contract's approved, and Director Greenwood, you've been authorized to sign and execute the contract. Thank you on that. Let me ask first, Director Greenwood, anything in addition to add?
I was just going to add a couple more comments to this topic, and then I have one other topic for you to give a quick recap on. We may try, depending on how fast this investigation goes and how fast we can get to phase 2, it is possible that we may try to fix this yet this year. More than likely, fixing this project, we would use state aid funding to cover this. What I will end up having to do is probably take state aid funding that I was planning on spending on County Road 15 and use it here, because tentatively right now I had about $5 million set aside for County Road 15. But with this coming up, I may have to take a little bit of that state aid funding and move it over here. And we may have to bond a little bit more for County Road 15. But financing for County Road 15, there will be much more discussions between myself and Heather later this fall when those costs get a little bit more revised. But I just wanted to give you guys a heads up of kind of what I was thinking of funding for this project. My other top. Yep.
Before we move on, that financial movement shouldn't have a delaying impact on the 15 project?
No.
Okay, please go ahead.
All right, my other topic now. Not everything for me is doom and gloom, so this is a exciting update. If the board recalls, probably back in March, I had come to the board to request approval to move forward with a local road improvement program application. And the board was supportive of moving forward with that. And it was an application for bonds through the local road improvement program for County Road 15. And the maximum amount of one of those LRIP awards is $1.25 million. Late last week, I had received an email from MnDOT State Aid saying that we were successful in our application. We'll be receiving $1.25 million in local road improvement program funds to go to County Road 15. So having that money come in makes it a little easier to take some of our state aid funds that I was setting aside for 15 to move it possibly over here to County Road 23. In that solicitation, MnDOT received 425 applications totaling $344 million. They selected 75 projects throughout the state, and they were split between township projects, city projects, and county projects. And so we were one of those 75 that were selected. So that's pretty exciting news.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you to you and your team. You've had quite a good run here.
Yeah, it was very exciting to see that come in.
Anything else from your end?
No, I'm good.
Let me just see if any commissioners, Commissioner Lipke.
Well, I'll add to Seth that apparently they started working on County Road 12 again yesterday.
Yes, Mathewitz construction is back, and they were going to start additional bituminous pavement removal south of the flooded area. I also late last week just received confirmation from Braun Intertech that we can start removing the surcharge on the project also. So County Road 12 is moving forward.
Any other commissioners' questions for County Engineer Greenwood? Please.
So Seth, pretty soon you can start removing that surcharge?
Yes, Braun said we can remove the surcharge whenever we're ready on the project. And so it may be a little while before Mathewitz is ready to do that, because the surcharge material is actually going into the core of the road to the south of the surcharge area. And so until they get the bituminous pavement stripped off, the old aggregate base out of there, and they do their significant subgrade excavation to open up that cavity, that's where that surcharge material will be placed. So it may be several weeks or more before you start to see that removal happen.
So in a best case scenario, when will the road be tarred? August, September?
August, September, depending on weather conditions, more than likely. Yep.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Well done. We're going to move on to David Drown Associates Company presentation. And Gary Wirtish, I know you're there. We can now see you. Let's test your mic.
Good morning, folks.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for joining us this morning. We're pulling up your information and we'll let you take the lead now.
All right. Thank you all. It's good to be with you this morning. We're getting ready to post the county administrator position. Today, I'm here to get your feedback on the draft profile document that was included in your packet for the meeting today. So that's one item I'd like to go through with you. Secondly is to talk a little bit more about the timeline and hopefully get some confirmation or tentative confirmation of dates, important dates in the process, and I'll walk through that as well. And then also talk a little bit about interview process and just kind of plant some seeds regarding that. We're still, no decisions need to be made on what you want to do for interviews, but I just want to have a short conversation on that as well. So should I just proceed?
This is your meeting.
All right, thank you. Sounds good. Well, then I'll take, what do I have? Like 3 hours to talk here, or is it a little
you
less?
can talk for 3 hours. I can't guarantee people are going to listen for 3 hours.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll keep it shorter than that, I think then. All right. So the first thing is in your packet is the profile document. This is a draft, and I will point out to you just a couple of things. One is that the goals and attributes sections of this document came directly from my meetings there with each of you and with your department head. So that's where that's the source of those items. You know, other information we just pulled from local sources, and we pulled information obviously from the job description as well. So I guess at this point, I'm all ears and I'm ready to make changes to anything that's included in this profile that needs to be changed, added to, whatever it is you would like. So
let's open the floor. Commissioners, any questions or comments for Gary? Commissioner Lipke.
I'll just comment that the hour I spent with you was very relaxed, and you knew a lot and you listened a lot. And I think I listened a lot too. So thank you.
Thank you.
Other commissioners? Well, I'll ask you just a general question. After you had your conversations with us, were there questions that came up in your mind that you wanted to run by the board?
No, there weren't. I feel real good about where we're at. I feel good about where you're at. I think that you collectively are in a good place as a county board. I think that's going to be meaningful as we recruit people. I really don't have questions. I'm comfortable with the job description. I'm comfortable with the salary range. I think you're very competitive. No, I really don't have questions for you. I feel we're in a good place.
Commissioner Kemp, you unmuted. I just want to make sure whether you had a question or not, or a comment.
Well, first of all, I would echo John's comments that Gary was a real pleasure to work with, and by the reflection of the documents that I see attached, clearly took heed of our positions, and I appreciate the fact that he had an open dialogue not only with us, but it's pretty clear that he had good open conversations with our department heads, which I think are very important in this process. So again, thank you. And I really like the document. I've seen some of your other productions, and it's really well done. So thank you.
Thank you.
Other commissioners? Well, Gary, we'll let you continue then.
Okay. So the next thing I would like to, one of the last pages of the profile, or the last page of the profile, talks about two key dates that I just want to bounce off of you. The first is the date when you would select finalists to interview. Now that date that I am targeting is July 27th, and I believe that is a regular meeting of the county board. So that coincides with the regular meeting of the county board. So hopefully, am I right about that? Not a few heads.
You're
so
correct.
Okay, good. Thanks, Abigail. So at that meeting, the board would, I will have reduced this pool of candidates down to a dozen or so. You're going to review video interviews. You're going to review application materials, personality profiles, you being the board. And then on that day, you'd pick people to interview. So that's an important date for the full board. And then the next important date is what I targeted for interviews was August 18th. Now, again, these can change, but I do like to include dates in the profile that look promising today. I won't change these, but you may have to for whatever reason as a board. So that's the other date. I'd like to just hear any feedback you might have on it.
Well, first we're going to turn to Ms. Lewis because she runs the show here. Do we have anything that day?
No, July, no. We have there's a presentation for that MnDOT, but that can be moved if it was needed to be, but
yeah,
nothing's
this is a priority. I agree.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so no, there's nothing in stone, no public hearings scheduled right now at all.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Any questions about the schedule? Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. McCormick.
Yeah, I was just peeking at our budget schedule for our budget meetings. I think we can accommodate for that, but right now I believe, Mandy, we have 18th, 19th, 20th held for those.
Well, thank you, Ms. McCormick. You're correct about that. I knew that day was in my mind. We could talk offline and figure out how we need to adjust either forward or backwards, but let's keep this schedule.
Mr. Chair, I have one.
Yes, Commissioner Kent.
When I'm looking at the August 18th date, I guess, Gary, I need a better understanding of what DDA will prepare, and this, I'm confused. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Because it looks like you're preparing materials, and it is recommended the board interviews be at a special meeting, but then you've got us doing that finalist selection on the same date.
Yeah, so
and I just don't know the process, so that's why I'm just asking for some clarity.
So I'll walk you through the kind of the July and after process. So position closes on July 7th. I will select from the pool of candidates. I will select a group 10, 12, whatever. They will move to what I term semi-finalist phase. They'll do a video interview, personality profile. The board then will get access to all of that information a week before July 27th. So on or about July 20th, you're going to get that information. The board you'll be able to review all that information. On the 27th, you'll pick people to interview. So you're going to say from these 12, we're going to reduce it down to these 5, whatever that number is. And then the interviews would take place on August 18th. A week before that, you will get access to all of the interview information, which then will include references, background check, all of that information that we will add to the information previously available to the board. So the 18th is a critical day in that it would be a board meeting. Now, typically what that would involve is, if you're going to involve department heads in an interview process, I normally would do department heads in the morning, and then the board would interview candidates in the afternoon. And then, so your commitment on the 18th would probably be noon into early evening. Is that helpful?
I'm still confused by that we're doing all of those interviews and then we're making that selection the same day.
You might, so
that's what I was confused by,
okay.
Because I'm sorry, I guess I wasn't clear enough.
Yeah, so you don't have to. I would say that 75% of the time boards make a decision on the day of interviews. You don't have to, though. I mean, there's nothing that locks you into that. That decision can come later. You could even add another interview or something. I should be more clear in the timeline that that's really tentative, and that can move around based on the circumstances that exist at the time.
I appreciate that. I was just a little confused by it.
Yeah.
And so thank you for the clarity.
Sorry about that. I should have been clearer.
Other commissioners, questions for Gary on this point? On the dates? I think we're good to go on the dates as presented, Gary. Other items you'd like to discuss?
Well, not really. I just mentioned the interview process. I mean, I recommend you include department heads in an interview of candidates. I strongly recommend you do an interview, obviously, as a full board. We can talk about other things you want to do. I mean, we've gotten away from having like public events in interviews because of COVID. But, you know, we're easing out of that now. So that might be something that you wish to consider as a board. We'll talk about that on July 27th and firm up exactly what it is you want to do for the interview process itself. But I just throw those things out there now.
Well, Gary, speaking for myself and looking at members, I'm looking at page 57 of our packet, which is the letter from Gary to us. I strongly believe department heads should be substantially involved in this process. I personally am interested in hearing about ways in which we can ensure department head contributions and participation.
So
Commissioner Lipke, go ahead.
the department heads will share their opinions with us before our interviews
Yeah, great question. So let me expand on that. Here's what I typically do. Now, this could be modified based on your wishes. So I mentioned earlier the department heads, if you include them, they would do an interview of each candidate in the morning. What then I ask each individual department head to do is to complete a form, like an evaluation form, for lack of a better way to describe it, that talks about how the candidate would fit in the organization, what they see as their strengths, and then any other comments they wish to share with the board. I ask department heads, typically this is how I do it, is to ask them to do this in writing, because if you've got a pretty good sized group of department heads, if you simply say, let's talk about it, you're only going to possibly hear from a few people. That's usually how group dynamics work. So the written way gives everyone the same opportunity to share input. I take all that input, send it to my assistant, and during your interviews in the afternoon, she's compiling all that information, and then you'll get a typed out version of exactly what each department head said, but not naming them or anything like that. And you'll get that when you're done with your afternoon interviews, and then you'll have a chance to review that information prior to doing deliberations or prior to adjournment, whatever steps that you choose to take. So that's kind of the typical process that I follow with department head involvement.
So a report card basically with a lot of supporting comments.
Yeah, a report card, except not like rating people, not saying rank 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, or whatever the case is. Their input is very valuable and helpful generally to the board, and 9 times out of 10 their input lines up with where the board is at as well, which isn't surprising. So
other commissioners?
Gary, if I
any
could.
final things? Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Kolar's next.
Thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt someone.
No?
Gary, thanks for your presentation today. To give us a bit of an idea, where does DDA have other searches going during the same time frame that Nicollet County is conducting its search?
Yes, we have several searches going on right now. I'm looking, forgive me for not looking at you, I'm looking at my other screen just to make sure there are no other county administrator searches that our company is presently doing. I just finished one last week. And so there are no other county administrator positions that we're doing. We have several city administrator positions in Minnesota that we're doing, and then a host of like a finance director, an engineer, a few others like that, but no other county administrator positions right now.
And if I could, thank you for that. Does that put Nicollet County in a better position timing wise for people who may be looking for positions during the summertime?
Yeah, I wish there was a concrete yes or no answer to that question. I've tried to study patterns over the years, and what I found is there aren't patterns. There are some ups and downs, but it doesn't appear to follow any pattern based on other positions that we have posted or time of the year. I think generally it's better in the summer to be doing a process like this than it is starting in January, but it doesn't seem to make a huge difference.
And if I could, Terry, thank you. And Gary, since you've taken on this project, have you been approached for information on the Nicollet County position yet?
Trying to think. It seems to me I have, but I'm not recalling any like specific individuals. And I don't start doing any outreach until we have something to show and something to, present to candidates. So I haven't started doing anything, and I can't recall specifically if I've been contacted. It seems to me that I have, but that I just don't know. I just can't remember.
All right, thank you.
Gary, if I might, I'd like to invite our department heads and directors and staff who are on this meeting. They may have questions or comments for you as well. So I'm really going to open it up. If any of you want to call, have questions or ideas, this is a great time to share them. We'd love to hear from you. I think that's good news, Gary. I'm not sure.
Usually it is. Yes.
All right. Seth, please.
I got one question. So if department heads do interviews with the candidates, will you have drafted questions for us to ask them, or are we kind of free forming and asking whatever questions we come up with?
It would be the former. So I'll give folks an opportunity to submit questions in advance, but there will be a set of questions asked of each candidate structured. There's also an opportunity for the candidate to ask you all questions as department heads, and that's usually pretty, more of a dialogue takes place at that point in the process. But there will be structured questions, but people will have an opportunity to submit questions. I'd need to maintain some veto authority there, on those questions, but I generally try to include what people submit, or maybe I'll refine them slightly, but I try to be accommodating.
Sounds good.
Let me again ask anyone else on this call thoughts about the process, the materials, anything you'd like to share. We certainly welcome your input.
Mr. Chair.
I don't have any.
Please, County Attorney first, and then Ms. McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I recently participated in some of the process for the selection of the Chief of Police for St. Peter. They did have an opportunity for public a meet and greet, so to speak, that was done both in person with attendance as well as virtually. And I think they received some good feedback from those meetings. And so if there is an opportunity to allow for public feedback as well, that might be an important aspect to this selection process. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Gary?
Yeah, again, though, that is definitely an option, and it's becoming a better option with COVID subsiding. So that would be something we would definitely talk about. It's ultimately up to the board to determine what components you wish to include, but that's certainly one of the options we can do. Absolutely.
Let's keep that on a front burner then, Gary.
Yes.
I think that is an option that we may end up asking you to work on with us. Ms. McCormick.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment, Mr. Chair and board. Thanks, Gary, for the information. The timeline's very helpful, and if we go with that date, we probably just want to get that on department heads' calendars. Thank you.
Good idea. Well, Gary, I don't know. Do you have anything in addition?
The only thing is we're ready to start advertising. That will, since there's virtually no changes to any of the documents, we may start advertising yet today. but it will be no later than tomorrow when we launch. So we're ready to go.
Gary, we have one more question. Commissioner Lipke.
When the directors interview these candidates, is it one-on-one or do the group of directors all get together and listen to the candidate?
It's the full group.
Okay.
But like I said, people get the opportunity to provide feedback on a one-on-one or a personal basis, but the interview typically is with the full group.
Thank you.
Or two groups. Sometimes if you have a really big group of department heads, we could just divide it into two. That works as well. So
People we have.
Okay, we'll continue to adjust that. We'll give that some thought.
Yep.
Thank you, Gary. Commissioners, at this point, I think a motion to approve the attachments for posting the county administrator position would be appropriate.
Second.
Kolars moves, Lipke seconds. Let me ask commissioners, any final discussion? No, I'm sorry, Kolars moves, Kemp seconds. Excuse me.
I can
Kemp
second if you want me
seconds.
to.
I apologize. I got into a pattern there, didn't I? Any final discussion by commissioners? Seeing none, Ms. Lewis, would you take the roll, please?
Kolars,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
Lipke,
Yes.
Dreno,
Yes.
Morrow.
Yes, the motion is approved. Gary, post away. We're excited to work with you, and we're excited to welcome some outstanding candidates for consideration.
thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to work with you.
Thank you so much. We're going to turn, commissioners, to the American Rescue Plan Committee. County Administrator Landcamp.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, members of the board. I do have one item for your consideration, and this is the establishment of the American Rescue Plan Committee, or the ARP Committee. And what I'm asking is to establish it and then also appoint Commissioners Morrow and Commissioners Kemp to this committee. The purpose of the committee is to allow those conversations to start happening. The county has received the first half of the funds from the federal government, and we want to take this opportunity to lay out some groundwork, have those discussions ahead of time rather than react to the funding coming in, and just have a more detailed discussion and start planning for this purpose. So today I am just asking to establish the committee and then appoint Commissioners Morrow and Commissioners Kemp.
Ms. McCormick, do you have anything you'd like to add on this point? I hope I'm not catching you unaware, but I want to give you an opportunity because I know you'll be working closely on this.
No, nothing to add. Mandy and I met late last week, and so I'm on the same page as her and agree.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions or comments?
Mr. Chair, I'd move that yourself and Commissioner Kemp be named to this committee and begin the work.
I'll second that.
Kolars moves, Lipke seconds that motion. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Ms. Lewis, would you take the roll, please?
Kolars,
Yes.
Lipke,
Yes.
Dreno,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
Morrow.
Yes, the motion is adopted. The committee's created. I would look forward to working with you, Commissioner Kemp, and with all staff as we figure out how to proceed with these funds. We'll turn to reports. County Attorney update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With your permission, I'd like to share some statistics for you for safe roadways, if I may.
Please.
As the board may be aware, Nicollet County participates in Toward Zero Death, which is an initiative to reduce fatalities and improve safety of our roadways. And I serve on the advisory committee for the local region. And I'm using this opportunity to share some statistics that are really concerning for both the county as well as our state as a whole, and urge people to drive smart. While I'm going to share them in a statistics format, I think it's important to recognize that they're not really just statistics. They are lives lost and families that are irreparably harmed as a result of losses, and really just encourage people to drive smart. Once COVID and shutdown started, anecdotally, we saw an increase in our office of speeds increasing on roadways, even though the volume of traffic decreased because less people were traveling. And those are bore out by year-end statistics. And unfortunately, what that is also translated in is an increase in the number of fatalities on our roadways. And over the Memorial Day weekend alone, 8 people lost their lives. 4 of those were speed-related crashes. In addition, there were 354 DWI arrests made over the Memorial Day weekend as compared to 292 in 2020. Going back to 2020 itself, the period of June through August 2020 proved to be the deadliest 3-month stretch in a decade. 40% of all fatalities of last year occurred during that period of time, which represents the 100 most traveled days generally of the year. We go fast forward to 2021, and in 2021, we are already seeing 159 fatalities as compared to 111 for the same time last year. That represents a 43% increase over the past year. And what is striking of those 159 fatalities is that 67 of those fatalities were speed related, which is a 48% increase over the past year. And so if it feels like when you are driving our roadways that people are driving faster, they are. And it significantly increases the risk to everyone that is on the roadway. And as you may have saw by the headlines, there were 2 fleeing in a motor vehicle cases that were charged out just in Nicollet County over this past weekend. So I bring that information to the board as well as viewers' attention, just to encourage everyone to slow down, drive smarter, so that you arrive at your destination safely. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much for sharing the very sobering information. Let me ask commissioners if they have any comment or questions for you following that. Seeing none at this time, I think we're all concerned, and we also appreciate your work in advocating for safe travel, safe transportation, safe roads, and the work that you and your office do to that end. Let me ask you if there are other items you wish to touch on at this time.
I do not, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Let me go to others. Let me see who's here. Ms. McCormick, we've called on you a couple of times. We opened with you today. Let's ask you if you have additional information to share with the board.
Good morning again. Yeah, nothing additional for today.
Okay. Well, you did well so far, so thank you. Ms. Sassenberg.
Good morning. I could provide a brief COVID-19 related update. Our statistics continue to decrease, which is wonderful news. In terms of vaccine, we are up to 63% of Nicollet County residents 16 and over having been vaccinated. We did do our clinics for the 12 to 15 population last week, and we were able to vaccinate 75 individuals. It's a great start. It's a pretty low number compared to the vaccine we had available. So we will continue brainstorming strategies to offer to this population. We're planning some upcoming drive-through clinics as well. And tomorrow night tonight actually, we do have our clinic that we are hosting at Patrick's here in St. Peter on the patio from 4 to 5:30. That is all that I have this morning. Thank you.
Let me ask commissioners any questions for Ms. Sassenberg.
Just thank you for all the good work you've done.
Looking forward to seeing how this afternoon's event goes at Patrick's. Ms. Copen, I think you're on with us this morning. Maybe not. Let me just see whether Ms. Krebs, do you have anything to add this morning?
Good morning. Just business as usual. Valerie's out today, but otherwise we've got a few jobs closing this week and then next week for the Public Works accounting position. Other than that, I don't have much else to share.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Krebs? Mr. Moore, anything to add to the morning festivities?
festivities. No, it's here. I'm trying to multitask, and I'm as usual. That's not the thing to do. No, we've had a number of with the ransomware that everyone is seeing in the news. We're seeing a kind of a big uptick on some of the hits coming through us, but we're doing what we do well and taking care of it at this point. Knock on wood. So as Whitney said, business as usual. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Moore? Seeing none, we'll turn to Commissioner Committee reports. Commissioner Kemp.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My attendance was a part of the Statewide Emergency Communication Board's Finance Committee, South Central EMS Board, broadband meeting with one of the potential providers, MRCI Finance Committee, and the MRCI Board meeting, and that brings me to today. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Kolars.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a TDS finance meeting, Maple meeting, today's board meeting, and a reminder to remember tomorrow's AMC meeting, the district meeting in New Ulm. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Commissioner Kolars. Commissioner Drano.
Brown Nicollet Community Health Board Executive Committee meeting. Another broadband meeting. I drove to Nicollet for a 12-minute ditch meeting. It was great. Region 9 Board of Directors, one watership, one plan. Last night was extension, and today's meeting and tomorrow's AMC.
Wonderful. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Lipke.
Yes, I went on the ISG tour that started in Fairmont. There were at least 4 county commissioners on that tour, and it was mostly in regards to drainage projects where they did have a holding pond and then release the water more slowly into the streams and rivers. Went to the Extension Committee meeting last night here in St. Peter. I nominated our Sheriff's Department for a free set of tires that the soybean growers are giving away to Sheriff's Departments, and was gone for a week to Wyoming.
Well, wonderful. Welcome back, and thank you for that nomination, which leads me to just note, while we still have the county attorney on our Zoom meeting this morning, I think we would all like to share our congratulations with our county attorney, who was a recipient of a 2020 FBI Directors Award. It's a fantastic recognition of all the wonderful work that our county attorney has done on behalf of the residents of Nicollet County, and I would say her stretches across the state as she works with the organization of county attorneys. So I, for one, and I'm sure my fellow commissioners join me in congratulating you on receiving this very prestigious award.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was quite an honor, and I would, if I could share, it related to the prosecution of an individual for using the internet to extort sexual images from young girls. He had a Nicollet County conviction for child pornography, and then it spread into the sexual exploitation, and they were able to identify 31 victims that he had across the United States. And so it is a reminder of, again, the awareness. It was a great privilege. There was a ceremony at FBI headquarters with all the recipients, and quite a lovely plaque that I received as well. If you want to step down and see it, it's quite impressive. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much again for all you do. And we know you don't do it for the awards, but the awards are a nice recognition of successful and important work. We know about the AMC meeting tomorrow. Thank you very much, Commissioner Kolars. Motion to approve per diems and expenses.
I'll move it.
Second.
Kemp moves, Lipke seconds. Any discussion? Ms. Lewis, if you would take the roll, please.
Kemp,
Yes.
Lipke,
Yes.
Drano,
Yes.
Kolars,
Yes.
Morrow.
Yes, the motion is approved. I'll invite a motion to adjourn the meeting of the commissioners.
So moves.
Kemp seconds.
Lipke moves, Kemp seconds. Ms. Lewis, if you take the roll, please.
Lipke,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
Drennel,
Yes.
Kolars,
Yes, thank you.
Morrow.
Yes, the meeting is adjourned. I'm going to call the Drainage Authority meeting to order. We only have one agenda item, so I'm not going to ask for a motion to approve the agenda because all we have is the consent agenda before us. So I'll
Move the
invite a
consent
motion.
agenda.
Kemp moves to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Lipke seconds. There is no discussion on the consent agenda items at all. It is the minutes from the previous meeting. So Ms. Lewis, if you take the roll, please.
Kemp,
Yes.
Lipke,
Yes.
Kolars,
Yes.
Drennel,
Yes.
Morrow.
Yes, the consent agenda is approved. I'll invite a motion to adjourn the Drainage Authority meeting.
So moved.
Kemp seconds.
Lipke moves, Kemp seconds to adjourn the Drainage Authority meeting. Ms. Lewis, if you take the roll, please.
Lipke,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
Kolars,
Yes.
Drennel,
Yes.
Morrow.
Yes, the Drainage Authority meeting is adjourned. Thank you all. Thank you all very much. I think we made some nice progress today. We look forward to seeing how Gary does with the search. Thank you all very much and try to stay as cool as possible over the next few days. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.